If I had to use one word to describe it, I would say it'd be hollow. What's up, guys? I got with a pencil here. Fun fact, I didn't to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. One fun fact. Here we are for me to give you my thoughts on the battle with Cath in Four Knights of the Apocalypse. And this will just be my specific thoughts on the battle. I won't talk too much about the rewrite because I do think this one's it's so right there and so ripe for a rewrite that, at least from my perspective, I think I'm just gonna do that separately. So this video will just basically just be my grievances and some slight glaze of it all. But let's not waste more time. Let me start this 15-minute timer right now and let's get right into it, please. Timer work. Where is it? Where's the 15 minutes? Boom. All right. So overall, I think if I had to say if it's a net negative or a net positive, I think it is a net positive, but it's like barely. And you may be like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. With how insane that this battle was, all the hype up to it, you're saying that at best it's barely a net positive? We got the battle between the 7 deadly sins and the chaotic cat beast king of Camelot, Carther, Cath, whatever you want to call him. And it was wild, it was crazy, it was cool, it was deviant. It just didn't feel like anything. It just didn't feel like anything, mainly because I think the core issue I have with it is that neither side felt like they were giving it their all in terms of like actualization and what they were actually doing in the middle of the fight. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, obviously, I have critiqued many a time in the review, and I'll critique it real quick again. The plan to essentially rage bait Carther into a battle, right? Even especially since they didn't know it was actually Cath. The plan to rage bait King Arthur into a fight was very short-sighted. It was very, let's not think about this at all. It was very idiotic on its face, right? Mainly because even if, and especially if they didn't know it was Cath, because Merlin decided to not tell them on the assumption of Camelot spies being around and couldn't at all communicate that information at all to anybody, that it wasn't actually Arthur. They know as an actual factual, as a basis of the last time they interacted with Cath and Arthur and the chaos stuff in general, that they needed a specific win con that they just didn't have. Like, obviously, they got a win con. They did end up winning in the end, right? Like, this does end up happening thanks to the efforts of Elizabeth and everybody else. But specifically, I want to know, what was the plan? What was the logic behind instantly rage baiting Carther into attacking? What was the point of immediately going into this without any sort of more specific ideas or plotting? Like, seriously, as cool as it was to see everyone appear, and specifically Gareth get a moment to show out and show off their ability and perfectly calm everybody down and bring all this up, teleporting everyone from Camelot back here will just turn everyone into legitimate hostages that will be then used against you. We won't talk about this shit real quick, but essentially, yeah, of course, having a whole bunch of idle bodies around is free use for them to be absolutely annihilated. Golly gee willikers, maybe you should have thought about that more before you immediately engaged into this. Once again, the idea that the Sins would end with no win con absolutely disgusts me. Second thing, the issue is the same issue that's always been the issue, right? I simply cannot take Cath seriously as an antagonist. Specifically, because the narrative doesn't even take him seriously. And that is unfortunately present throughout this entire fight. Now, obviously, one of the main things I complain about with Cath overall is he doesn't really feel strong enough for being our main antagonist. But that's one thing. It wouldn't be the first time that underpowered antagonists have been main antagonists and actually worked really, really well. Cath was working really, really well when we didn't even know it was Cath, and even continued to work relatively well afterwards if you gaslight yourself a little bit. But the issue is, once he actually showed up on the pitch, once he actually got to show out, once he was actually here, he was nothing. He was nothing. And the issue is not that he stayed nothing, because he didn't. Ultimately, Cath did actually end up evolving into a proper threat, even if it did, take some hostage manipulation, stuff like that. He was able to damage the Sins. He was able to put a good fight up against them. He was able to basically win. And that's good. I think our main antagonist should be able to win against some side characters at this point. But the issue is, I had to sit through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate chapters of Cath not being a problem. Not being a problem at all. The only thing that made him a problem was the thing that they knew about him. In fact, the only thing they knew about Arthur and Cath was their super giga next level immortality. They didn't have any sort of prep for that, any sort of plan for that. So they just went in blind, hoping that these things would work out, I guess. Once again, kind of making the Sins look stupid and also undermining Cath. I will give it to Nakaba. It seems like he remembered in the later half that, oh yeah, Cath is actually supposed to be pretty legitimately strong. So he lets them be pretty legitimately strong and go do some things against the Sins. But still, I wouldn't say it's enough. It's too little, too late for me to actually try to take this gargantuan, ugly creature at all seriously as an antagonist. So there's that. Then, very specifically, it's an issue that's kind of been an issue for a while, and I can't fully attribute... Is it the proper use of the word? Attribute it to specifically this section of the narrative, but the four evils are garbage, right? The four evils and how they're utilized narratively, and just the general scope of the Chaos Knights of Camelot, they aren't used well. Because they can't be used well, because of course they need to be fought to the Sins, because this is just the Sins hype fest. It's their last big hurrah. And like, unfortunately, that's a narrative complaint that like more so haunts me, because I think all the four evils were actually really interesting characters before they got Chaos shoved up their cheeks, and then started getting peppered around by Chaos. And that didn't even last, because Cath was fought her and needed their power back. So there's that. Then, the other major issue I do genuinely have with it, planning aside, execution aside, Cath as an antagonist aside, it's specifically how the Sins treat Cath, right? Like, we have to remember, the final antagonist for Seven Deadly Sins, the last, I know it's the supreme deity technically because of Cursed by Light, but at least in the manga, the last antagonist that they had was Cath. They know how devious, dangerous, and diabolical Cath is. And I will give them a pass, because Merlin kept it on the down low that Cath was Carther and didn't actually let them know about that. But specifically, how the Sins handle the situation once they find out it's Cath feels so unbelievably contrived to make it so the Sins are put in a bad position. The way that characters who should have darn near limitless stamina and consistent ability to gank and brutalize Cath, to at least keep him in one spot while the Four Knights do their Four Knights thing. We'll talk about their lack of integration in a second. But it is horrific how badly they sell and fumble. And I will call it flat out a sell and fumble. We see clearly, a character like Bon is so far above what Cath has to offer that it's not even really fair. To the point where Cath can't even do damage to him, despite having reabsorbed all the Chaos powers. Bon has been known to fight for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 60 years straight, and that's one of the periods he was fighting the Demon King for in Purgatory. Just straight 60 years of combat. And we know that Bon is more than capable of keeping that pressure on. But what does he do? Stand around. Or a farm. Not take Cath seriously. It makes the Sins feel dumb. And don't get me wrong. It'd be one thing if the Sins were always dumb and always slow and always didn't super giga gank somebody down. But this is out of character for them. And it's specifically only put here so Cath can actually somewhat turn the tides of the battle by remembering a very basic fact about the opponent he's fighting. Who doesn't interfere with this? Who doesn't interact with it? It's dumb. It's dumb and it's contrived. And I think that's my biggest issue here. This, and this will be mentioned more in the rewrite when I go and do it, but this can all be so easily avoided by either 1, changing who attacks who, or 2, changing the threat level of our major antagonist, and specifically our characters' attitudes towards him once they find out it is him. Right? Bon selling so hard, and then King selling Bon on top of that, it's horrific. It's garbage writing. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. It's bad. It's bad because it's out of character for both characters involved, and ultimately it only exists so that Cath, who wasn't able to meet up to the actual antagonist threat, is able to become a threat because he's able to nerf Bon specifically. But then you may be like, okay, Pencil Man, sure, it wasn't good there, but how could it get worse? It could get worse because Mel's stupid. It could get worse because Mel and King and Diane and Bon are also, but like that's continuing the point I made earlier, right? Like they just didn't plan this well. They didn't think about it at all. They really just threw themselves headfirst into a battle they didn't have to. And speaking of throwing themselves headfirst in the battle they didn't have to while being underprepared, they shouldn't have sent Lance away. I'm sorry. I don't know what the common community consensus is on Lancelot right now, but we should all collectively know that Lancelot is presumably the strongest asset that the good guys had. He himself alone would have been enough to brutalize Cath infinitely, on loop, ad infinitum. But they send him away. They sent him away. I know you're gonna be like, well, they have a mission. They have a mission in Camelot that they need to take care of that was immediately pressing. Oh, clearly not. They are just walking around Camelot, which easily could have been done after Cath was dealt with. They have no direct motivation or example to be here. That only showed up when the Knights of the Holy Grail appeared. So no, the four knights had no reason to not be there. Because their presence there, even if Gawain would have been mostly redundant and useless, would have been immaculate. Percy with the life spirit healing, Tristan with the goddess tear healing, would have been able to help Elizabeth and prevent her from ending up in the state that she did. And then let's talk about Elizabeth's integration, right? Part of me, I'll get to, I'm running out of time. I'll get to the pig in a second. But very specifically, Elizabeth's integration is in one part cool, right? Because I'm happy we actually get to see Elizabeth's true magic. Will we ever see Elizabeth versus Mel like Nakaba promised us all those years ago? I highly doubt it. But regardless, I'm happy we actually get to see Elizabeth's true magic. What I don't like about Elizabeth's true magic is that she doesn't do anything outside of Healbot. Elizabeth, who's now being compared to the deities in terms of her sheer output and power, which means a lot or means nothing depending on how you interpret that, but regardless, she just stands around and Healbots and then can't even Healbot for that long. Very, very embarrassing, very, very poor showing for our female lead of the previous series, and a character who ultimately didn't have much screen time in Four Knights, so ultimately I feel very little for this passing of her, quote-unquote. Except the other major thing that I have to get into, and I'll get into in a second, like, none of this actually ended up mattering at all, because, you know, nothing ever matters, nothing ever sticks. But the one last thing I want to say that I do have a problem with, as fun as I think it is, and as silly as I think it is, I think the silliness and the funness does undermine it. I don't like that Hawk ended the battle. Does it make sense for Hawk to end the battle? Yes, he's a direct child of chaos itself. He had over 10 million years in purgatory, and notably, he kind of was the series Potential Man. I'm talking the original series Potential Man. So yeah, him getting 10 million years of training and becoming the king of purgatory. It all makes sense. But once again, it adds to this layer, this idea, this presence that Cath just isn't a serious threat, right? The fact that he got taken out by Hawk in less than 1 minute, or a little over 1 minute, embarrassing. He's a bomb. He's garbage. He's trash. He's doo-doo water. And also, Hawk's integration into the narrative makes the rest of the sins look garbage, trash, and doo-doo water because, one, they could have just planned around him. Two, they could have had Lance here. Or three, both. And this was seriously that serious, but it just didn't feel like the Sins were taking it that serious until the back half of the fight, which I don't like. They should have been on that timing from round start, and Cath should have just been an actual viable threat. And now, the final thing I do want to talk about in terms of how much I'm really not rocking with the fight as a whole, and how it was handled and how it was utilized. This whole section of it is fine. The specific wearing down of Cath and trapping him in Seven Deadly Sins, Combo Strike, Nightmare Sins, that's all cool, that's all fine. The main thing that I think really, really wiggles my toes, and not in a fun way, is the fact that basically nothing happened. Right? Like, obviously, something happened. Bon is now old and presumably on track to die, and Cath is now removed from the narrative. But very specifically, Elizabeth didn't even die. She didn't even die. The Four Knights weren't even involved. They took no damage from this, and they had no real direct integration with this. Cath is gone, but actually, no, Cath will probably just be back. Because of course he'll be back. Right? Like, nothing, like, things happened, but nothing happened. And this, once again, is the climax for these characters, I'd say. Could we possibly get another massive Seven Deadly Sins fight? Could we possibly get a Seven Deadly Sins and Four Knights combo fight? Yeah, absolutely, because all the characters are still alive. Because no one can ever die. Because there is no, like, actual weight and presence to everything that's happening here. And I think that's the main issue, and it's why all the way back to the intro, I said this feels very hollow, right? Like, for what has been built to, for what this was, right? This is the culmination of practically all the characters present, from Cath, to Gother, to Bon, to Mel, to Elizabeth. It is the culmination of all the characters present. But, like, it genuinely feels like they were either out of character, underpowered, or not utilized properly. Sometimes all three. And it comes down to the lack of planning. It comes down to how they were fighting. It comes down to the sheer nature of the fight itself and the integration of Cath as an antagonist into the narrative. It feels like the foundation of this fight just wasn't stable. Because it feels like these extremely intelligent, long-lived characters make some of the most stupid decisions ever. All so the plot can progress. And by progress, I mean essentially be put on stall. Because, yeah, sure, Elizabeth's knocked out, and oh no, Bon may die. But, okay. And Bon's not a main character anymore. And he probably won't even die. That's Nakaba Suzuki. Elizabeth isn't the main character anymore. So she probably won't even die. She's not, she didn't even die. She's just comatose. And Cath is indisposed for now, but he will be back. It feels like a hollow stopgap being put in place because Nakaba kind of just wanted to move on to something else. And the reason I say so confidently want to move on to something else is the latest chapter at the time of recording, chapter 233. This feels completely disconnected from everything that was happening up to this point, because it is. Even if it is definitely linked because they're, hunting down Arthur and stuff like that. This new beginning, quote unquote, with just focusing on the knights, feels like an actual proper continuation of the story that could actually directly engage me and others more. Where I've seen a lot of people were disengaged with this entire debacle, and I don't blame them for it. But, of course, I made it to the end of the video, so if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor, or ran out of time, do me a favor and leave Twilight Failure. That's basically what this is saying. Leave Twilight Failure in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that leaves notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you're going to have a page down below. You support me for as low as $1. Get a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions, so the series having to review, ad reactions to all my videos, early ad free access to all my videos, early access to all my videos, not just on the main channel, but on the second channel that got the actual link in the description down below and in the card in the upper right hand corner. On top of that, I do have a link to my Fizzly down below, where you can drop 5 videos or short video or 20 minutes long video, and also a link to my Twitch that got the controller, where I stream every Friday, 8 p.m. ES Tissel. But now, I want to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2 May, Buddha Ura, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Tim Thomas, Kaving, ORXN, Logan Guzman, Dead Mean, Keon Stewart, Edwin Igmignoba, Straw, Antavius Mitchell, Superflame Zero, Weary Exile, Alex Kenny, Todd, The Practical One, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Plant Crone, Brandon Payne, Black Sage, Multi-Batman Superman, Zalims, Joe Bean, Sleepin' John, The Young Family Pastel Pandora, Mo City King DKG, Angeline Bonnet, Akolade Babatunde, at JDog2656, Union Eye, Funny Dude, Athenzi Shear, Sino King, Sheesh King, Aswin Hedi Prasetya, JMB KD, CCC, Enzo, Kitty Liddy, Gerald Harris, Dino, Victor Jacobs, Axis XC, and RTM Gangatron. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Dread Zoen, Kevin Encarnacion, Lil Kodo, and Sean. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our ink tier members: Shrimpo the Fourth Shrimp 06. And then I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And then I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Joaquin Munoz and Joaquin Munoz.